I want to go back to the democratic issue on the Ukraine side, because a lot of people ask, I guess, why war, right? Why can't there be just a democratic solution to this? Why are we fighting? So
Yep.
I want to show you a picture of the democratic attempts made by the Ukraine, because it isn't true that um, that nothing democratic was attempted. So I have here a picture of the referendum, and there were two referendums, not just, and again, there was two areas that were polled. Here, I'm sorry, I'm still getting used to this sharing thing.
Yeah, there it is.
So this is Sevastopol. This is the area, again, in an area in the east. Okay, and so what happened is 2010, they have an election. 2013, the people are riled up. 2014, we have a coup, and this triggers the constitution. Russia, who is already in Ukraine. Let me mention this. Russia did not have to roll up on the Ukraine. Russia is leasing and has been leasing for many, many years a naval base in Crimea. So Russia is in the Ukraine.
Yeah.
When the coup happens, Russia, who's already all the military that's already down there and is allowed to be in there and is leasing a base, not leasing land or some cars or like, a hangout. It's a naval base, okay? So that means they're leasing space for their army to be in your country. They take control of some of the checkpoints, and I'll give you the step by step of what happens in what order. But I just want to show this, which is the voting record. So they have a referendum, and 95.6% want to join Russia.
Right.
Not that they want to just be an independent nation. They want to go home. These are people voting to go home. And there's another one
across
here.
the whole of the Ukraine, or
that was just Sevastopol, and this is Crimea. Okay, so this is Autonomous Republic of Crimea. They vote again to join the Russian Federation. They don't want to be just independent part of Ukraine or protected from the west half of Ukraine. They want to be part of the Russian Federation.
Mm-hmm.
So again, they're Cossacks that were taken over by Bolsheviks, that were handed over to the Nazis, and want to go home. That's the simplest way of putting this whole situation into a nutshell. And the Nazis, like Chrystia Freeland and the people that she's standing with, are still there.
Yeah.
So that's that's the situation we get to. And again, it wasn't a huge jump from 1200s to whatever into 1939. No, it was a partitioning of 1700s, the Austro-Hungarian Empire, and Prussia took a piece of Poland, and Russia took a piece of Poland, and Austria took a piece of Poland, which became Hungary, and then that was absorbed or whatever. So, but again, we don't have a Ukraine until 1933, until remember that New York Times article.
Mm-hmm. So Putin's move into Crimea was just almost universally accepted by the Crimeans.
It's like their Article 5.
Yeah.
So that was, and I can't believe that Clinton didn't know that would be the result.
Yeah, of course he did.
In both, especially since they already did this before. So, and especially since we just had Georgia. we know what Russia's response is. We know that when you encourage Georgia to join NATO, that the Georgians rise up and Russia says no. That's what Russia says. Russia's response to NATO is this exactly. Georgia and Ukraine becoming part of NATO is a direct threat to Russia.
Yeah.
That's his response.
Yeah, you were on the last stream that we had when I showed that, I think it was Real Life Lore, the video where they flip the globe and they show that whole valley that you come in from Europe into underneath Belarus, through Ukraine into Russia. And it's this entire flat plain that they have to obsess over. And over the last, 40 years, they've just watched that open up into a much more easily attackable surface area. And now the last bastion of hope for them geographically is Ukraine. And they're talking about joining NATO and the EU and stuff like that. So you can see how Russia's like, whoa, now, easy.
Yeah. Yeah. And again, NATO knows, like I said, Germany even warned them. And it's just, so ideally, probably what you would want is, again, an independent Crimea as a buffer, as the bulwark between the West and Russia.
Ukraine could almost carve out an existence as in eastern Switzerland.
Yeah, ideally, these two halves have so little in common that they really should never have been joined, obviously. And but the problem is that the East has all the resources, so the West is not going to leave it alone.
Yeah, the East has the resources in what sense?
Oil.
Oh, all the gas, right?
The natural gas.
All that natural gas is right there.
Some rare earth stuff too, right?
And so, and Yanukovych, right? Yanukovych had. Sorry, I have some stuff in here on biolabs.
I'm seeing a whole part 2 flashing before my eyes.
There's a lot. There's a lot here. I'm just trying to see if I have a map of the gas situation there. Yeah, so there's gas here. So.
Oh wow.
So this is Europe's dependence on Russian gas.
Look at Belarus. Poor Belarus. 100%. I can see why they stick with Russia.
Yeah, 100% use Russian gas. But this is interesting to look at in another way too, because so right now Russia is getting this, having access to that gas, but having a war with Russia, I mean, Poland just entered this war, right? Poland just went to the defense of the Ukraine. Poland is getting 48% of its gas from Russia. I mean, Lithuania, Latvia, Estonia, Finland, these places are all getting 100% gas from Russia.
Baltics too, yeah. Wow.
Even Slovakia, 100%.
Yeah.
Right? So, even Turkey. I mean, do you know the significance of Turkey getting that much gas from Russia?
Yeah.
This is stabilizing, right? Russia is a stabilizing force. And what's going to happen if we keep being crazy is that we're pushing and that same, like actually not just John, but like all of the professors, you can't be pushing Russia like this, like the bear, with the stick in his eye. What are we doing? We are driving Russia into China, into relations with China. And why would we want that? Why would we need Russia to stabilize Turkey, to stabilize Iran, to stabilize China. We need good relations with China, with Russia.
Yeah. It's truly bizarre.
Like it's so bizarre as to be sinister.
Question for Rinku. Did Putin make a big mistake by not doing this quote-unquote special military operation back in 2014? Ukraine was more fractured, disoriented back then, and no UK/US weapon systems to deal with.
Okay, so I think it's an illusion. I think what we are seeing is an illusion. I don't think What Putin is doing now, Putin has been doing the entire time, which I mean, up till 2022. What happened on February? Okay, so the very first one was also February 22nd. Like, the dates are really close and very strangely the same, as to appear planned and premeditated. But I was awake when this war broke out. Okay, I was actually awake. I keep very weird hours, and I was awake, and I saw the news going down, and I feel like this is another. Have you seen this phenomenon where everybody kind of sees something and then it's like global amnesia and everyone just forgets what they just saw, and then they just
Yeah.
believing whatever the media tells them they saw? So
I think everybody here feels that way.
what I saw happen was not Russia arming 100,000 troops. I didn't see that. I don't know where everybody was, but I was awake. Okay. And what I saw was Russia sitting from 2014 to this year, waiting for negotiations to happen, protecting the people of Crimea that are being killed by the Nazis. That is a real thing that is going on. And I've seen bodies of children. Okay, so there is something actually going on. There is a genocide. United Nations reported 13,000 deaths in that area, and 4,000 of them were Ukrainian soldiers. Ukrainian meaning Western Ukrainian soldiers. So what were the rest of those deaths that the United Nations is reporting? Something is happening, and we're not getting the whole story. Okay, they weren't civilian deaths because they also reported civilian deaths, and that was 3,000. So there's thousands of people being killed in eastern Ukraine, and nobody cares. And if you do care, apparently you're a warmonger and you're promoting violence.
Right.
But so what I saw was Russia's there as per usual since 2014, waiting for somebody to come to the table, and not waiting, because we had two agreements which nobody talks about. We had Minsk 1 and Minsk 2, which incorporated Crimea. Crimea actually became an incorporated state. Nobody talks about this either. That never happened, apparently. Never happened twice. So Crimea is already separated from the Ukraine. Again, we don't know this because we're not being told this. So what I saw was Zelensky took 60,000 troops and started marching them towards Crimea. That's what happened. And then Russia went to the table at home and spoke at home to his Congress, to his version of Congress, and asked, what is Russia supposed to do in response to the fact that 60,000 Western Ukrainian troops are on their way over to Crimea, a nation that has had two diplomatic approaches to resolve this conflict and has incorporated itself at this point. And then they voted to defend the Crimeans. And that's what we see, and that's what gets reported, that Russia brought 100,000 troops into Crimea. Russia's already in Crimea. Russia's bringing that, they've had their troops there the entire time. They have troops there regularly. What happened, in my opinion, was Zelensky started a war knowing that he would be backed by Biden. And I think the planning, and this is going to sound ridiculous, but I think the truckers started this. I think we started this war. I think we started this war because we were in the middle of a global freedom movement. And the best thing to get in the way of what we're all doing, Biden marched 30,000. There are 30,000 troops right now in Washington, D.C. Washington, D.C. looks like a war zone, and nobody is watching that. Nobody is watching the American people turn their military against their own people because everyone is looking at Ukraine.
Agreed 100%. So I mean, like, these people, WF, globalists, yada yada, they've had tabletop exercises running since the late 80s that run through all of these, and this is just yet another scenario that they've foreseen. Dark winter, Event 201, several in between. They don't just kind of run through and tell everybody what to do, which would be a simple kind of conspiracy theory kind of thing to do. They run scenarios. So scenario A is everyone's a sheep and they just do as they're told, and then we move on to the next step. Scenario B, you have mass political uprisings and protests that you need to put down. Option A is to have talks with them. Option B is to declare your constitution null and void and put everyone in jail, as we did in Canada. You have a global pandemic. Option A is to do, run lots of testing and isolate. Option B is to do totalitarian, complete and utter lockdowns like New Zealand had. Each of the zones of the world were test areas. Canada is a test, and there's nothing surprising about what they did. It's all in their tabletop exercises,
Yeah, and if
So
you get really good at looking at it, you can see the patterns in different countries. You can see the rhetoric. You can see there's so many. I mean, to the T, where it's not like, oh well, she's kind of doing that, or this leader is kind of doing that, or they will say the exact same lines.
Yep.
They'll make the exact same moves. It is the Communist International.
So in New Zealand, they were watching what would happen if you did complete militaristic lockdowns right off the bat,
Right.
and they were testing the limits of that. In Canada, we went kind of 3/4 of that way until we had a populist uprising. Then they see what happens, how far you can go with the totalitarian anti-measures to that, and we've shown you can go far, especially if you do have complete control of the media. So in America, they're ready for this. I mean, they are.
Can I interject with a warning? There
Yes.
is a quote that people use all the time, and it is 2 steps forward and 1 step back. This quote was Lenin. That's where that quote comes from.
2 steps forward, 1 step back?
Yes,
Really?
it's Lenin. And it's because this is how they do it. It's a strategy.
1 step forward, 2 steps back.
Yeah, that'd be more accurate.
Well, I mean, in a way, yes. But what communists have always been very good at is that small and slow incremental creep, and they never give up. And
the frog boiling.
And all little defeats do not faze them. Yes,
Yeah.
frog in a boiling pot of water.
Yeah. And Peterson was good for pointing that out early on a few years ago, that it's going to be massive overreach and then a sudden pullback. Everybody gets to take a breath.
Yep.
Like right now, I'm watching the party happen on the kind of center right of Twitter and social media. That the mandates are ended, and we told you so, and and we're not going to wear masks, and enjoy it while you can.
I'm part of that.
Everyone, but they're going to come up with a new thing, and it's going to be 10 times worse than masks and shots. It's coming.
Yeah,
this,
for
this
sure.
is
And I can tell you what they are, but let's stick with one thing at a time. But
we'll try to stay on point. Yeah.
We could be here all night. I can't believe we've been here for 2 hours already.
I know. Just scratching the surface after 2 hours.
For real.
As I said, this is the Chomsky problem. We're trying to broadcast and educate, but boy, have we got a lot to cover because no one else is covering it.
Yeah. And yeah, it's because the overreach and it's a web. It's a complete web.
It is. You have mentioned a couple times tonight the most interesting thing that we've gotten on here in SuperSpreaders, I think, in the last month, has been a reevaluation of the entire East, including China. I speak often of the positivities of Matthew Ehret and his clique, and through his Twitter and him retweeting a post, I found a bizarre Twitter account that actually openly calls for us to drop the hostility towards China and start cooperating with them. How do you feel about that, Zeruda?
Well, uh, I get where that's coming from. It's coming from the same sentiment that right now the West is causing more trouble than they're than they're worth.
Yeah. It's
So
it's a tough sell because those
there
maybe
are people.
center right are very aligned against China for great reasons.
Yes.
And I got to directly interact with that account on Twitter on the SuperSpreaders account. Anyone can go now to SuperSpreaders Twitter and find these discussions with this account. I'll put the handle of that account in the chat in a second. I kept pushing for like, that's all cool. It's nice to be friends, but what about killing Uyghurs? What about social credit system? What about totalitarianism?
Well,
And they
you have
dodged
to
it. They dodged
look
that a
at
lot.
you have to look at what and again, Canada's not a player really, and we don't have an army. We don't have. I mean,
Yeah.
but
We have
when
diesel submarines.
when we talk about, we really are just talking about what America is going to do and what America should do.
Yeah, true.
Because, and when I mean America, obviously I mean the U.S. Okay, bye, consumer. Sorry.
Thanks, consumer.
Somebody's dying.
It's too bad your phone died because you've been, you're. It
I've
seems
been
like you're.
talking too long.
No. It
He
seems
knows me
like
in real life, so he knows how long I talk.
okay, so you know who he is? So he seems to be running a bit of a counter narrative. He's kind of with the kind of Russia's
It's okay.
evil kind of narrative. So I
It's
did
okay.
want
I'll
to
punch him in the arm later. It's
I did want to address his points, but we're moving quickly. So I'm a consumer. If you're catching up on this later, or if you're still on, we weren't ignoring you. I had a couple of your you were up next for questions for Zeruda because you had some counterpoints, and we definitely want to highlight those as well. He seems really stuck on the idea that Russia is invading because of those elections that are supposed to be faulty. Seems like he was really hung up on that.
yeah. So again, there's that's the narrative is okay. We want. So I'm just the argument from that side instead of calling it a narrative. The argument is we want things to be handled in a democratic manner. My argument is you have a democratic election. You had a democratically elected Yanukovych. You had a protest, not just like a trucker protest or even like a Greenpeace protest. These protesters were armed protesters with guns. I do have a slide here that shows the lead up to this. Okay, so this is what led up to the coup. Okay, so Yanukovych is in power, democratically elected. He's been in power now for 3 years. Russia, he is pro-Russian. He wants to get involved. Like he wants to work with Russia. He wants to trade with Russia. He says no to the EU deal. Okay, and then we have large demonstrations. Now, he ran also in 2004, so this is nothing new. It's not like the Ukrainians thought when they voted for Yanukovych the second time that he was going to go into the EU. Okay, this is the second time he's been running. They know his slant and his leaning, and it's always the same people voting for him. We have large demonstrations, and then Putin offers a $15 billion loan, so kind of to make sure that we can help your nation. We will work with your nation.
It's a recurring thing for Ukraine that they are financially screwed, right? They're desperately feeling around to join the EU or Russia, just whoever will give them a decent loan without too many
remember,
evil.
I don't know if you remember that Trump, that famous quote right before he was talking about how he liked Zelensky because Zelensky told him, said that he did, there was nothing inappropriate on the call, but he said, I never trusted I never trusted the Ukraine, and I never trusted the fact that we should be giving them money, because Ukraine is one of the most corrupt nations in Europe. So it's not
Because they're kind of
surprising to me.
desperate, right?
It's not surprising to me that they're motivated by cash. And $15 billion loan for a little country like that is a lot of money. Anyway.
Yeah.
So that would probably do it anyway.
It was
I
a
mean, whether
perfect
they were
phone call,
corrupt or
though.
not. But I wouldn't be surprised if most of the corruption is caused by the Clintons, though. I mean, that country is just small enough to be very. I mean, it's not that small, but it's all in
small
there.
enough economically, I guess.
They're
I mean,
yeah,
they're in
and they're all
horrible,
in there.
horrible trouble. That was the thing I was getting from the Stone documentary, is that Yanukovych is fishing around with the EU and Russia at the same time, and applying for loans with the International Monetary Fund. But the IMF, as always, is demanding horrible demands for the payback terms, like increasing electricity and heating bills to ridiculous amounts. But the very fact that Yanukovych is fishing around to anybody who'll listen. I'll join the EU if you'll give us a whole bunch of money. I'll join Russia if you give us a whole bunch of money. That how desperate their situation was, and probably still is.
I don't want to. I mean, yes and no, but like I do think he ran on a pro-Russia platform. So I just do want to phrase that.
Yeah,
So,
right, and that's why 2014 happens. But Stone is interviewing him, and they were as well reaching out to the EU. They've got they had a weird meeting with the EU that ended up being really quick and ending early and unsatisfactorily for everyone, but they still went, hoping to get some kind of money or some kind of agreement. Very interesting.
Yeah. And I mean, I think as a leader, you kind of have to do those kind of things. It's like, people are like, well, Putin is part of WEF. Well, yeah, because I mean, it's a world economic forum. It's not like a personal economic forum. So yeah, he's part of the world, right? So,
yes.
But if you look at how he responds to WEF and how he interacts with Klaus Schwab, then you can have a better idea of what he thinks about the World Economic Forum. And these things are not hard to Google and watch. His speeches are there, and they're translated into English. They're dubbed on the spot. They're not, it's not like you have to read the whole thing. They have interpreters. You can read this. You can listen to it. I would suggest you do it quickly before they're all scrubbed, but they are there for now.
Yeah.
So this is kind of how it's going down. And again, when we're talking about a protest, when we think about a protest and we're thinking about a protest in our terms, no, we had, again, government officials being mistreated. We had people, and then on January 22nd, we have 2 people die. And there are protesters, like armed protesters. You have street clashes on February 18th, 26 people dead. February 20th, 40 people dead. February 21st, finally, they have a deal worked out for May elections. And it's so bad after that. The next day, Yanukovych has to run away for his life.
Yeah.
So these are
this installs Zelensky?
No, Yatsenyuk was the next leader. They had put in.
I barely heard of that guy.
I can't forget the name because of the word yuck.
Yeah.
I'm like, you really. Sometimes I just think God has a sense of humor. Like, Yanukovych or Yatsenyuk. You chose yuck. Okay, fine. But yes, that's what they chose. I'm sorry. I know there are people that are in this world that voted for this man, so I will let them be. But yes.
Sensei King, herbalist. All right, you're in the mood, bro. So then he flees, and that's just what, like a deputy leader that takes over in the meantime?
It's the party. It's the other party that takes over.
The other party takes over.
They physically remove the people they don't want by mistreating them, ousting them physically, having Yanukovych physically flee the country, and then put their party in power.
That's what they'll do in Canada if
But
People's Party
that's
gets
the
in power.
democratic. That was democratic. That's what we have to believe. That the East is the ones that are not being democratic by voting and then having a fake referendum where they cheated.
Right.
That's the not democratic part.
Yeah.
And the democratic part is this part where we shoot the people we don't like and we scare them and force them to physically leave parliament.
Oh, sounds like democracy to me. So how does Zelensky get in?
So Zelensky is just a new. This is a further election down the road.
And
so
he's just the new face of the same people.
Zelensky was not put in there by force.
No.
Zelensky is a different generation.
But is he with the party that took over after 2014? Is he a continuation of that?
Yeah, he's not pro-Russian, obviously.
No, but is he a direct continuation of what happened in 2014, or did more happen in between?
I think between I don't think there was anyone between Yanukovych and Zelensky unless it was some small interim something. But
between,
no, he was officially elected. They had another election.
Understood. But I mean, is he representative of the people that got power in 2014? Is he with them?
As far as I know.
Okay, so that's somewhere we got to look at for part 2.
He's a kid.
He's an actor.
Yes.
Yeah, he's like Reagan.
He's literally a puppet.
Schwarzenegger.
Think Justin Trudeau part 2. This is Zelensky.
He's like Ukrainian version of good-looking young guy.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
So,
and then they put armor on him and then parade those pictures around as if he's checking out the troops like a tough guy.
I have seen him with pictures of the Ukrainian flag, like the blue and the yellow with the Nazi swastika in it. I don't know if they're real. I haven't checked them, but it's very scary, kind of very disturbing. But I'm not surprised by it because I've seen pictures of Justin Trudeau and Christina Freeland with these signs. I've seen pictures of John Psaki with the Soviet hat on. They're hiding in plain sight.
Well, like I said, we've got to remain balanced. I mean, we
have a nice comment here from Lion Kennedy. He says it was Poroshenko who took over.
Okay.
Thank you.
And then Poroshenko, he represents who? So I'm curious about, you had the 2014 quote unquote American-backed coup, and then what party, what interest is in control? And then, what leader comes from that? And then how do we get to Zelensky? Is he still representing fully the 2014 winners? Or is it
fortunately, my focus was on the history and what kind of was going on while I was watching this.
That's good. No sweat.
And I'm not I'm as much as I'm very political. Obviously, we had a lot going on our side of the water.
Tell me about it.
For a lot of years, and I'm very involved, and it's been a lot.
It takes an immense amount of energy and output to keep up with what's going on.
Ridiculous! It's ridiculous. But that's where I think people need to have a sense about them of patterns and how these people act and behave. It was day one when I saw that. When I saw the coup and all the media reporting it, it was an immediate red flag. It didn't take a day. It didn't take, it was, I've grown up on this area. I've been involved in protests my entire life. And as a child, 5 years old, I was out on the street in front of Henry Morgenthaler's abortion clinic until they made a bubble zone around it and you can protest. It was, face to face with feminazis and, yelling profanities at me as a kid. At 11 years old, I got karate chopped in the head by a lady, feminist.
Did they rub their beards on you?
I got hit in the head I got karate chopped by a lesbian at 11 years old.
Haven't we all though? Wow, yeah. So good for you. Wow, yeah, you've grown up pretty awake.
there's a certain way that the left behaves when they're protesting, and a certain way that the right behaves when they're protesting.
Yeah.
And I could tell right away this was a left wing protest, and I was very aware and wary. And the fact that the right wing media didn't have a problem with it was a problem for me. And again, also with the Arab Spring, I was looking at that and saying, why is all of the media reporting the same thing on the Arab Spring? And it wasn't until, again, Benghazi happens where, oh, what? They're gun running through Turkey? Like,
Well, here's this constant problem, and probably a huge reason why we appear to be losing the culture war is it's difficult for us. If we have an issue with something that's going on, we're going to try to make logic and fact-based arguments. Whereas the other side is just going to scream racist, homophobe until they win. Another great guy that I'm always pumping up to everyone is James Lindsay, who has been doing the work to uncover the roots of the current political left that we have. And he's got it boiled down to one statement: call everything racist until you win.
right.
And we don't do that on our side because we have an actual moral cause that we are trying to advance. And we have actual fact-based logical reasons behind what we argue. But it's been a hard lesson for me. I've lost relationships and families over this. They will not listen to facts and logic. And it's a weakness that I don't know how we can overcome, because I'm not going to go out and call my political opponents. We've had some trolls in the chat tonight. We had them when I was walking around the streets of Ottawa. I welcome them. I enjoy arguing against my opponents. The other side does not. They want you to be silenced. So I don't know how we get over that moving forward.
And the issue is that rhetoric it exists for a reason. It exists because it's a tool, so one doesn't have to argue, or one doesn't have to, use their mind. If you give someone enough rhetoric, they feel like they're informed and they have answers without having to think about it. So that's what the left arms the general population with enough rhetoric that they feel like they're informed. And then when you try and engage, they immediately get discombobulated because they're not informed and they can't answer any of the questions you're asking with the rhetoric they have.
We convince them that a single bullet point is enough for them to be fully informed on life and the entire history of everything that's ever happened. From a single bullet point. Like I say, the fuck Putin chalkboard sign out front of the gay bar is just, that's enough for everyone. One single point is all you need to make for leftoids to crowd around a certain opinion, right? It's tough.
Well, they basically believe whatever they're
smart.
told to.
And in tiny little snippets, tiny little bursts, the one Nazi flag at the Freedom Convoy, the girl that didn't even know she was stepping on the unknown soldier. All this stuff is one single thing is just enough, and they're gone. They'll grow the entire political opinion just off that. You don't even need to do anything else anymore. Whereas for us, I need to know. I spend an entire day trying to find alternative angles of that girl that stepped on the cenotaph, looking into the Nazi flag. I spent hours trying to look into each of these things. The truckers stealing food from the homeless. I spent hours looking into the connections of that. They don't need to do that.
I mean, before initially, I think they started running with "We were desecrating the cenotaph" before the girl even stood on it. I mean,
were they?
They started with 2 cars being parked on the stairs, and then that was desecration.
And urinating and feces. They love that scat stuff. They really love the scat stuff.
I don't know if you watched the Viva Frey stream where he went in. He physically goes into the Châtellerault to ask the manager if anybody pooped on the bench in there, because that was the story. And the guy was like, I would know if that happened.
Yeah, we would know if there was human poo. Yeah, all those stories, they really liked their scat stuff. The pee and poo is huge here. That's The number one
It's where
pushback
their
I got
brains
from
are at.
anyone in Ottawa when I talked to them was the pee and poo. And I'm just
It's
like,
just where
bro, like the trucks actually have bathrooms in them.
yeah.
Like, are
yeah,
you serious? Pee and poo?
Yeah. Yeah. No, it's where their
so
minds
it,
are.
anyway, the overarching thing is that it's a thing that we have to watch out for on our side.
Right. And like when I didn't know, what happened in between Zelensky, I could say it and I could defer. And actually, Lion Kennedy, was it he made another comment about Poroshenko that I was wondering if we could read as well. And
okay,
again,
yeah.
when we don't
Back
know,
to
we can
Lion.
defer to people that know, and we're looking for information. We're not looking for rhetoric.
Right there.
Yes,
There you go.
thank you.
Billionaire chocolate. Oh wow. He tanked the economy. Zelensky, a comedian, said he'd fix the nation. God damn. So we got to watch out for Hershey over here. Or Cadbury.
So,
Mike,
so there's stuff that happens after the coup, and I know we're kind of like, I don't know how long we want to go here, but
yeah, let's go for another big point that you were hoping to make tonight. So you take a big inhale and get us to one more step in something that you really wanted to get us across tonight, and then we'll cut it and we'll start planning the electric boogaloo after this.
okay. Yeah, this is just kind of a breakdown. Maybe I'll just leave it on the screen a second so that we can, like, if somebody rewatches the stream, they can read through it.
Yeah, everyone should know that we're running kind of 20 to 30 live viewers right now, but there will be a good 20 to 40 times the amount of views on this, even by the time it's done. So lots of people are going to see this.
Yeah, the only thing I want to mention on this slide is this, basically, that March 18th, 2014, there was an incorporation of Crimea. That actually happened. So Russia is, and again, even John Mearsheimer said the same thing. He's like, no one is getting Crimea back. It's gone.
Right.
I don't know what they think they're doing, but it's gone. And so Zelensky marching 60,000 troops over there, that was an act of aggression. That was what triggered this war, not Russia.
Okay, so Crimea was, it's safest to think of Crimea was just Russian. It was just gone. Yeah.
It's an incorporated entity.
Yeah.
So again, I don't know if anybody's seen this online. This is a map of places that are being hit. This is U.S. biolabs in Ukraine.
Oh.
I'm just going to go.
Oh.
Yeah.
Wait. Show us that again. Holy crap.
Yeah.
What?
So this is what, so this, and this is not, I would love to say this is conspiracy theory, but it's not. I can show you from U.S. sources.
Is that Biden?
This is, yeah. That's a meme version of it here, where
we're gonna put the missiles and the bombs right there.
So this is Putin's statement on that. Putin tells Trump, we're burning the trash. That's this year. Biolaboratories destroyed.
Wow.
Okay. So that's from now. Of course, when he says it, nobody cares because it's Putin and it's just rhetoric and there's no biolabs. Okay. But with war between Russia and Ukrainian government, the utmost skepticism is necessary about new claims of wrongdoings. Security Service firmly deny claims alleging the biolabs are tied to bad aims. And the U.S. Embassy in Ukraine further argued the claim about biolabs from posts like above is part of disinformation designed to place the U.S. and its relations with Ukraine in a bad light. Biolabs in Ukraine are necessary to prevent deadly outbreaks. So there are biolabs. It's not a conspiracy theory. Now, whether you believe they're there for nefarious purposes or not, they are there. And apparently it looks like Russia and Putin says that they're burning the trash.
It could be those nice biolabs that that
So
everyone
if
wants.
it was the nice biolabs, they probably wouldn't be trying to cover them up. So I came across basically um, an article about how a hospital had been hit, and then so I just Googled the address of the area, went on Google, physically looked it up with a friend who may or may not be on the stream. And we found that it was not a hospital, but it was a university, and and they were saying that it was a psychology department. When you try to Google the name of this hospital, there was an article about the psychology faculty and something they were doing, and so that was the only article that was coming up on Google. Like that was the first thing you would see. So if you don't know Ukrainian or you don't know Russian, you could believe the narrative that this was what that was. And basically I Googled it in Russian instead of Ukrainian and came up with the university page and the description of what it was. And you can see this. This is the chairman. He's a candidate of biological sciences, associate professor. So there's another one there, also head of laboratory. So they're lying. They're not telling us the whole story.
Wow. So it looks like a Russian Zexi Lee.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
Yeah.
So this is more. This is a CIA document. I've been doing a lot of research, so but yeah, so there's that. And then there's this. This is the other conspiracy theory thing that's going on. This is a picture of Alexander Zarashenko, and he was, and I say was because he was murdered. And I say murdered because he died two different ways, which doesn't make sense. So he was the leader of the separatist-backed republic. And this is an article from The Guardian. This article is published on August 31st of it was I could look in my Discord. I know the year, but basically on the same day, The Guardian publishes two articles on this man's death. In this article, he's been killed in a blast that tore through a cafe. In this article, hang on. This is more about the territory. Hang on, maybe I have the other. Sorry, it doesn't scroll when it's zoomed in. Let me find the other article. They're very similar. Here we go. Zoom in here. You see what that says down there in the red? Yeah.
Car bomb.
Zoom in there. There you go. Yeah. Car
so
bomb.
Same man is killed twice on the same day in two different accidents.
Conspiracy alert! Conspiracy alert!
So, and what they're saying in this article is that he was killed by Putin because he wasn't dependable enough. So he's replaced by a man named Pushkin, and but the one article that the Guardian runs with is that he's killed by the Russians, and the other article is that he's accidentally killed in a cafe bomb. Anyway,
so in the previous story, who is blamed for his death? Same people or?
No. So it looks like they're rejoicing the fact that they got him in the one article, and the other article looks like it was an inside job.
Evil Russian shit.
Yeah.
Right.
Isn't it possible that the car was parked outside the cafe, though? I mean, that's plausible.
It doesn't. Neither article links in any way like that, though.
Right.
Russell 3380. I heard he just bought the car from Hillary. Instead of take a moment there.
No,
and Michael Lorette, just going to interrupt. Michael Lorette, I think maybe in the interim while we're waiting for part 2 from Zeruda, I think we should have you on, buddy. You are spouting some stuff. You're a knowledgeable man. You might be crazy, but you also might be very knowledgeable. So let's talk, brother.
Well,
Okay, sorry. Go
and he
on,
mentioned
Zeruda.
that. No, that's a good thing what he just mentioned about the Jews in the West. And what I find that I find a lot that the Nazis did work with Jews to get other Jews. So Soros, for example, even as a child, George Soros was going into Jewish families' homes and catching Jews with his Jewish father. So these were Jews
Yeah.
that were on the
Z-
side of the Nazis. And
Zeruda, we're gonna have to save that for part 5 after we're banned from YouTube and we're exclusively on BitChute. But I know where you're going. Yeah,
well, so
yeah,
what I'm saying is he's finding a similar trend here going on in the West,
yeah,
where
yeah,
although the Nazis are controlling the West, they are still working with Jews in the West.
yeah. Very much a that which cannot be said kind of thing. There's a deep history that's involved with that, and we sure as hell can't talk about it. I'm in Ontario,
Sure.
in Canada, and it's actually illegal to talk about most of those things. But we can go there. We'll just have to wait until we're banned from YouTube entirely. We would like to enjoy maybe 6 months of YouTube partnership. We've just reapplied. We can have super chats for maybe 6 months, and then we can move everything over to Rumble, and then we'll have that talk. Yeah, but Michael, connect with us, man. We're on Twitter, SuperSpreaders. I think you seem like a guy who's got a lot to tell us. Holy crap, man! Look at this, the Beneviste de la Calavera of the Knights. Yeah, man. Holy crap! So maybe you're our next person to educate us. Okay, go on, Zeruda. Sorry to interrupt you.
No, that's fine, and I'm glad for the.
Yeah, it's great.
Yeah. So again, just as a final, I think that just to address the quote unquote conspiracy theories, that we have to just do your research. Just if you hear something weird, just try and do some research. You may be surprised what you can find online. We have the world at our fingertips. So please, if I can encourage anybody in this situation, if you don't trust what I'm saying, do some research. I don't want you to trust me. I want you to do your research. I will continue. I'm not just because there's a history here doesn't mean that it can't go south very quickly. And just because Putin doesn't right now have intentions of that might be imperialist or might whatever, it doesn't mean that he can be triggered, and doesn't mean that, I mean, they're poking him in the eye. So can we go into World War III? Can he take Kyiv? Can this get worse? Yeah, of course, absolutely, it can get worse. And if we keep supporting it and keep ramping up the rhetoric, we're not going to make it any better. So less rhetoric, and maybe let's focus on the U.S. a little more.
So do you ultimately think then the reason why Russia started this war was because of those troops being sent to Crimea? Is that ultimately?
Yeah, and again, I wouldn't classify that as Russia starting the war. I would classify that as Ukraine started the war.
No, obviously, fair enough, right? All right. Do we have anything else to say on that topic before we wrap up?
I think that's good. Unless we want to stay here till midnight, I think that's good. If I could answer any questions if anyone has any more questions, but I'm not. I mean, I hope I've covered everything.
So how much? Like I'm personally seeing so much. Like what the media is showing and what I'm seeing online, it seems to be two different things. What do you think is actually going on in Ukraine as far as the military operation goes?
I think, okay. So I asked a friend on the phone. Well, what would you do? What would you do if you were in that situation? If you were Putin, and if you're charged with making sure, okay, let's not say Putin. Let's say you're Stephen Harper. You just got Canada back from Trudeau, and Ontario is in this situation with Quebec. What would you do? Strategy would be very, very quickly to make sure that any military action is put down. So you go in there. If France has any, ships on the whatever you do, just kind of try as quickly as you can to eliminate any kind of attack, any room for attack, any ability for attack, and then get them to a situation where they have to come to the table for negotiation.
Mhm.
And I think that, I mean, if you see right now, according to the news that I've read today, Putin has stopped. Actually, he's not fighting right now. He had a small ceasefire so that the people of Mariupol could get out because they're on a seaport, and he wants it evacuated so nobody gets hurt. So, I
I
mean,
saw a headline that they're conferencing. Zelensky and Putin are
right,
conferencing right
yes,
now.
and that is the goal, right? The
Yeah.
goal is negotiation,
Yeah.
peace through strength.
Yeah.
That's
Yeah.
how it
Yeah.
works.
And set up some borders that are probably what he wanted. He wants borders and rules, and he's forcing everyone's hand to get some rules on the table now.
And like I said, there have been tables. Like Putin is continually going to the table. It's the other people that are picking up the war. Like they're arming civilians. And again, okay, can we go back to Budapest Agreement where basically Ukraine was disarmed by the Clintons. They went in, the EU has disarmed. Like if these people, civilians, were like Americans where they all had weapons, or like the Swiss. I mean, the Swiss were able to fight off Hitler. Why was Swiss neutral? Why did Hitler not invade Switzerland? Because every man in Switzerland was armed. That was what saved Switzerland. That's why we know it as a neutral nation. It's because they were all armed. So Hitler avoided them.
Switzerland knows what the fuck is going on. That all of their bridges into the country are set with explosives. Everyone's armed. All the bridges can be exploded from a central location. That's how serious Switzerland is.
Mm-hmm. Right.
I think Ukraine, their best position would to become that.
Well, everybody's best position is to become that. Basically, if you as a people can defend your nation, that's a very good situation to be in. That's the idea behind peace through strength. If you're strong, nobody will mess with you, and then we'll have world peace.
Yeah. And from what I'm seeing for the last anywhere from, depends how you define it, 10 to 40 years, Ukraine has been weak. They've been kind of at the doorstep begging for money. And this is what you get out of trying to create a nation, but they don't have an internal strength. And so they're begging for money.
Purposely weakened by the West. They have been purposely weakened with this in mind. And I think it's sinister. I don't even think it's democratic. I think it's in the name of democracy, and it's in the name of peace, and it's in the name of all these things, but I think it's sinister.
Do you think it's a solution to further balkanize the area? Should Ukraine turn into 4 countries? Would that be a good solution?
I think if the West can respect the East's wanting to incorporate and be their own federation, I think it would be fine. Do I think it's going to happen? I'm not sure. It depends on what the globalists want, right? And they seem to want World War III.
They do. Yeah. My question to you, though, is should each of these regions that you defined, the East, West, and the North, South, that ended up kind of by accident in the area that's called Ukraine, would a sensible solution be for them to just become separate countries? Should they continue to pursue even the farce that is Ukraine?
Well, so people should be allowed to decide for that. I did listen to the PPC candidate Andrew Povich in Whitby. He was talking about Hungary, which is that part of the bottom on the west side, and it's kind of like an attachment to the bottom of the west, southwest. That they are not in favor of this. That would be a very small nation. I'm not sure if it could even possibly survive
that's
on its
the
own.
problem, right?
Yeah. So, and whether Hungary wants it back, or whether they really want to go to Hungary, or they're okay, or they identify as with the Eastern Ukrainians, or it's complicated, and I have no skin in the game.
Yeah.
I mean, I have extended family that's from the area, but I really don't have skin in the game.
Yeah.
So
That's interesting. I saw someone chat that before, and it's been my idea too. It's whenever you try to force these tribes together, it just seems hopeless. Eventually, they're going to break apart again because they're tribes. They just don't see eye to eye. They're not going to get it.
And I don't think they were trying to force them together to be together. I think they were just trying to hand over the resources in Crimea to their friends.
Well, yeah, you can go over the map over 600 years and just see how that zone of the planet was just given back and forth to whichever emperor won the latest war.
Well, yeah, the funny, I think the worst part, the Hungarian part, is pretty sad, because it was like Hungary took this piece out of Poland, and Maria Theresa was she was this. So this is 1772, and Maria Theresa is the emperor, basically, of Austria-Hungary, and she sees Poland being split apart by Prussia and Russia, and she's like, "This is good. This is a bad idea. Like, we really shouldn't be doing this to Poland," and her Prussia is run by her son Friedrich, and he kind of convinces her that no, it's good. It'll help Austria and whatever. I mean, but the reason why this is good to look at, especially 1772, is because we realize that these were just family members, right? This was like the ruling class was kind of very much related, and very kind of divvying out stuff and doing. They weren't warring in the same way that.
War was very different until 150
Yeah.
years ago. It was a little bit more of a chess game, kind of Habsburgs, Holy Roman Empire. You meet on the field and line up very officially, and eventually someone kind of loses, and then you cede a certain amount of territory, and that's what a lot of Ukraine was. That they're like,
it was just a bunch of feuds between cousins, or like the
right.
Russians were cousins with the British, and
which is what I'm saying.
Tiaras from the Russian princesses, and
you might end up with part of what's called Ukraine now in Poland for 100 years because the Habsburgs lost, or you might end up with it in a different chunk because the Holy Roman Empire won. Just absolutely bizarre, which is why it leads to what you said, that many people who live there don't even feel that the country exists.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, so I'm not sure. Should it be increased micronationalism as much as Yugoslavia ended up being what, 4 countries? Should that be what Ukraine leads towards? Maybe this is something for part 3, return of the Zeruda,
Mm-hmm.
that we can deal with in the future.
Yeah, sure. Again, bringing up the same point we brought up at the very, very beginning of the show about Kiev. Kiev was the capital of Russia from 800 to
So it's this bizarre circle that's just taken 1,000 years to come back around. Absolutely wild.
Yeah.
Well, it was nice to be able to at least talk about this in an environment that I'm not, people aren't.
Yeah, you're not worried about getting jumped on.
Yeah.
Well, that is what Rain and I made this channel for. Like, there needs to be more people that are clear-headed and looking for actual truth, that at least have some kind of broadcast medium. And the convoy exploded us. We'd already been going for almost a year. It exploded us, and we actually can reach a few people now. And we just want to keep on doing this so that we don't feel like we're insane. I mean, I don't feel I'm insane, but a few times a day, I feel like I might be going insane just because everybody else just seems to have these ridiculous ideas that are based on non-facts. And so it's good. It's good. Thank you very much, Zeruda.
Thanks, Zeruda.
Thank you. Thank you for having me.